Good, Andy. We've kind of been communicating a lot. The first time we've ever been on a podcast and heard each other's voice in the live, in the raw, as you might say. Yep. Right. No. So yeah. Just briefly, if someone's not accustomed to finding network friends, give them a brief synopsis on that podcast because this is a pretty stark departure from that. Right. Yes. Yes. So I live in southern Japan. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a style that oh, how do I say? Even I don't want to like pat myself on the back, but I've watched a good amount of Japanese or foreign wrestling, and shoot style still is kind of a kind of eccentric taste that I think over time you sort of develop your likes and dislikes, and it's still a very kind of fluid style for wrestling with me where I discover new things and am kind of still figuring out what exactly I like as far as the optimal shoot style match. So it's been very interesting to go through the podcast and sort of experience that journey with you guys, and I've enjoyed it greatly. Right. Yeah. More different than I would have guessed before we both submitted. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, as a kid, I was always WWF first until the MWO. So that was kind of the way I landed. But I would say now, I mean, WWF has such a long history. I mean, this project covered what 55 years. Um, so it has such a long history that even stuff, if it's been a couple years to go back and revisit, there's still, I would say, worthwhileness in that. And I'm kind of at a little bit of a crossroads and a weird moment as far as WWF is concerned because my 3 year old son is just starting to get kind of interested in wrestling, likes Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. So I've been rewatching a lot of those kind of classics from my childhood, mostly classic stuff. He knows John Cena, but doesn't watch much of the modern stuff. It's mostly from like 88 to 94, kind of that sweet spot. And that's been really interesting because I've kind of started to appreciate, if you're a good enough face or heel that a 3 year, my 3 year old can say, oh, that's a bad guy just from you walking out to the ring. I mean, I do think that's an accomplishment in some ways. So that's something I've kind of been appreciating more. I went back and watched a lot of Survivor Series this year. I don't know, I got on a kick of that. And then also been watching quite a few Summer Slams for something that may or may not be happening in the future at placetobenation.com. Yeah, hopeful, fingers crossed, but that's a long way away. But you got to do the prep work early. So yeah, I've been rewatching. I rewatched. I would say kind of more than I thought, and probably even more than for the GWE. I mean, I'd say I did more focused rewatching on this project than I did for GWE. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know we were born in the same year. So yeah, we're really similar on that trajectory. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think anybody, like I said, with 50 years of history, you're going to have, weak moments, weak spots, and stuff like that. That's probably honestly now my weakest area too is from '06 to probably 2011 or so because I was definitely in and out, getting married and growing up and stuff like that. Yeah, let's go for it. Right. Okay. So I did compare Andy's list to my list, and we'll have the differences. So as you'll see in our both of our bottom kind of 15 or so, we have a lot of people that wasn't on the other one's list. Just in this lump, I have 7 out of the 10 that didn't make Andy's list. So I have Kane at number 100, China at 99, Tony Gurria 98, Pedro Morales 97, Umaga 96, Junkyard Dog 95, Dash Wilder 94, Scott Dawson 93, Adrian Adonis 92, and the Honky Tonk Man at 91. I mean, I'll just tell you, like Kane and China, I really didn't want to vote for them, either one. Kane was kind of just an admittance that he'd been there for 20 years, so I felt like I had to give him something. Ended up giving him my number 100 spot. China, I really don't know how influential she was or was not. I do think that gets overblown to some degree. And I honestly think she's a pretty terrible performer. Someone that's been going through the yearbooks recently, and into 2000 especially, or early 2000 stuff with Jericho, I think is just dreadful. Her with Eddie, I may table some of that for later, but I understand liking the Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero character. But I think from an in-ring perspective and what I really kind of value in wrestling, I think that's not a great resume builder for Eddie, which we'll discuss later. But I mean, they did complement each other to some degree. But overall, yeah, this is kind of where she landed. Tony Gurria was sort of a Titans pick. And then a couple more that I'll just touch on. I mean, Dawson and Wilder, I think the Revival, I mean, that's a great throwback tag team that really speaks to me. So I wanted to find a spot for them. And Honky Tonk Man is someone a year ago I never would have probably considered for a list like this. And he's someone that when I talk about, like, you know, that my kid knows he's a bad guy and sleazy and stuff like that, he really projects that character, and that's why he landed at my number 91, which was a big surprise to me. Wouldn't have had a chance of making this list a year ago. Right. Yeah. 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 The stuff they've just recently touched on between him and Savage, I rewatched that along with them, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised at how legitimately good those matches are. And I mean, it is Savage, but I mean, Savage had 2.5 and 3-star matches, and I think these are well above that. So Honky played his role really well. Right. Yes, Sammy didn't make either of our lists, so that's kind of a little bit of an upset. Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's one of those guys where you feel guilty like praising him. It's again really because he was like the number two baby face for the promotion for like a 2 year stretch. But I don't know. I don't really consider myself one of the big kind of beacons for Junkyard Dog, but I know there's others that despise him. Right. Yeah. I'm not really banging the drum too loudly. Yeah. Right. Well, just quickly on Tyson, I mean, the overall list, he ranked pretty low. I mean, I think he ranked at number 305. I'm looking at it now. and he's right around Test, Molina, so Great Khali. So that's kind of an unfair shade. He's behind Brian Knobs. He probably deserved a little better than that. I would say for sure. I mean, to me, just the most obvious of this was Mabel. That was someone, even though he was a decent part of my childhood watching, I never really liked him too much from the purple pants onward. So that I guess that one stuck out to me, especially kind of behind the jumping bomb angels. That was pretty humorous. Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. With more, they would have definitely made it, and not much more for me. Yeah. Yeah, they're way down there. Yeah, that's kind of what these bottom tens are for. I'd say they're mostly personal picks more than anything. Yeah, so this one also has a good many that is just on my list. I think there's what six or five. Yep. So I had number 90, Jim Duggan; 89, Tajiri; 88, The Miz; 87, Bam Bam Bigelow. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. I skipped Buddy Rose. Oh, Will is Will's gonna be happy and angry that I skipped him, but happy I'll include him. So sorry. 90, Buddy Rose; 89, Jim Duggan; 88, Tajiri; 87, The Miz; 86, Bam Bam Bigelow; 85, Brutus Beefcake, which is a ranking I'm already regretting; 84, Terry Funk; 83, Yokozuna; 82, Sherry Martel, which is probably too high as well; and 81, Harley Race. Yeah, I think I may have actually went this 10 as more of my personal picks, to be honest. I don't know what happened. I guess who do I want to talk about? Jim Duggan's interesting. Well, I would say a lot of these guys are better elsewhere. That's kind of what this list like. Buddy, obviously, is known mainly for in your neck of the woods in Portland. Duggan, yeah, Costco, yep. Oh, nice. Yeah, I love when that happens. Every once in a while, you get that with Georgia Championship Wrestling here. Yeah, it's very interesting to remember like who they remember. Like this is a tangent, but this old territory guy called El Mongol. He was a real big kind of cold, kind of like the Sheik, that type of gimmick, from what I can tell. But then he actually owned and was the entrepreneur of a Mexican restaurant for many years, and just recently died. So that was interesting. Apparently scared the shit out of my mom as a kid. So. But yeah, but I mean, Buddy Rose, Portland, Jim Duggan, Mid South, Terry Funk, everywhere. Tajiri, yeah, Tajiri, CW, I'd say is where he's most well known, and then Harley Race, NWA. So I think each of them probably did enough to get in on my list, but this is kind of where they peak at. I mean, Jim Duggan especially was somebody I wrestled with because even as a kid, I thought he was a loser. Like it took me a lot to watch the Mid South stuff to realize he wasn't just a bumbling buffoon that was kind of I don't know, just not very bright. I guess is the nicest way of putting it. But I've kind of gained a little bit more appreciation for his stuff, and he was somebody that stayed over from when he debuted, up to 1993. He was still over and even into WCW, so that's something. Brutus, I think I was riding high off his Dream Team run when I made this list. And as I've been watching more stuff, namely the WrestleMania 5 match he has with Ted DiBiase, I watched that like a month ago, and it still is leaving a bad taste in my mouth. So he probably, if I redid the list right now, he'd probably be my number 97 down there with Pedro. So I changed that. Terry Funk again. I think that was when I made my list. Was right during his run on the Place to Be podcast when he was feuding with Hulk. I do think a lot of that stuff is good, but it's very brief. And even Funk, like I don't know with you, Andy. Like, are you one of these like that thinks Funk's like the greatest of all time or top five? Like, where do you put him? Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. Yeah, He's somebody I like a good bit, but someone I also again. I mean, like I think I had him ranked like 12th or something like that, but which seems low compared to the ones that had him number one. But he's in the discussion. I'll say that. I think he finished second. Yeah, he finished second. Yeah. No, it was. Yeah. Well, maybe Hanson did finish second. I'll look at that real quick. It won't take long. I get those confused. No, he finished second. Yep, he finished second. Stan third. Masala fourth. Yep. So it was. I mean, it wasn't in that. It wasn't really that close because Flair kind of ran away with it. I will say a little peek behind the curtain. Our overall difference between number one and number two on the rollout. This was a pretty tight vote. This list kind of came down to the wire. I was pretty pleasantly surprised, actually. But oh wow, even it's even closer than I thought. 17 points separated the overall number one, and number two. So that's pretty close. That's as close as you can get on 100 plus ballots. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the top 10 you can't have much contention with. So yeah, that was actually less than I thought. I mean, we did have one first place vote for Buddy Rogers, but besides that, I didn't think there was any, like Scott Steiner receiving a first place vote for GWE. I didn't think we had any of those, which was kind of surprising. I mean, I sort of thought we'd have an outlier. I don't know who I kind of thought would have like somebody. I don't think this is spoiling anything, but I thought, maybe somebody would give somebody like Edge a first place vote overall. Like I could have seen that very easily, and he didn't get one. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, that was more of appreciation, I think, of her managerial and total package than what she was able to display in ring in WWF. Right. Yeah, we'll. I think two of the most kind of overarching things of both of our lists, yours compared to mine, is one you hate women and two you hate managers, as we'll see, or off screen characters, and we'll get to those. Yeah. Right. Yeah, when I looked at that, I had him too high. We'll get to him, but definitely had him too high. Yeah, he has one good match versus Sean at Survivor Series. Oh, and a good one with Brett in '97. So yeah, two good matches, but he was too high. Right, and a lot of sporadic appearances. Yeah. Uh, yes, yes, very interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll quickly touch on Marty Jannetty. I know you said I was surprised. Yeah, he was really close for me. I don't know. I mean, I think the Rockers are probably either my favorite or second favorite tag team of all time in WWF. Um, he probably should have got a spot. He's just always someone that even then, like I liked Sean better in the team. And like when I've gone back and watched, I think that's kind of a misnomer that people say, oh well, in the Rockers, Marty was the better guy and was should have, you would have thought he would have been the star. Just in me going back and watching the Rockers stuff, I haven't seen that. I mean, I thought Marty's been fine, but I've kind of thought Sean's looked better on a majority of the stuff. I mean, Marty's been good, but I right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, he has some good stuff. Larry Sabisco was probably my 101. I love the Bruno feud. It's just that's about it. So I didn't know what to do with him. Besides that, right? No, right? Yes, and I think I'd have probably, in retrospect, would have flipped Yokozuna and Sid. I don't know how Sid ended up so high on mine. As I keep looking at that, and I mean Yokozuna's clearly better than Sid to me. I know Aaron George will disagree. I think Yokozuna is better than Sid. I may not have as much charisma, but had plenty of better matches to me than Sid. Yes. So right, right. So I am pro Yokozuna over Sid. This list doesn't reflect that. So I was again. I mean, I will say definitely on my list. I put a lot of thought into my top, probably 40. Yeah, I can probably tell you the actual point. When after that, I kind of just did a little. I slotted a guy in, and then I'd say, "Oh, do I like this guy better than this one?" Yeah, so I'll slot him one spot ahead or whatnot. So that's where some goose end up happening. Yeah, we'll go to my 80 versus 71. So this list is almost all people you have higher than me, except for two you didn't have at all. So 80, Dean Ambrose; 79, Bill Eadie; 78, Finley; 77, Dolph Ziggler; 76, William Regal; 75, Santino Marella; 74, Ricky Steamboat; 73, Bailey; 72, Sean Waltman; 71, Roman Reigns. I didn't know kind of what to do with a lot of these very current candidates. Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, I kind of have them bookended here. Those were two I didn't know what to do. I mean, like Finn Balor, I didn't rank. Sami Zayn, we told I didn't rank. I didn't rank Kev. I didn't rank Kevin Owens. So a lot I kind of left off. Ambrose, just looking at it, I think I may have ranked him a little too high, and Reigns I probably ranked a little low. Like he should be higher in retrospect. Ambrose is so weird because I was really like 2013 and 14. I was banging the drum of like, oh, let's get behind this guy because yeah, he had like that great personality, and he was kind of the champion of the fans once Daniel Bryan was going to be gone for a hot minute. But then he just became so goofy. And I really feel like his ring work regressed. He relied on that slingshot clothesline, which I hate, and his matches way too much. And I, right, yeah, and I just feel like he's never quite found his way since then. And now it's getting to the point where we're 3 or 4 years removed from that, where it's like, is that his peak? And if so, if we did this 10 years from now, that is his peak, he's probably not going to make the list. So that's kind of where he's at. So I'll also talk about the two that you didn't have. One was Dolph Ziggler. Another guy I'm back and forth on. Some stuff I've hated, but some stuff I've actually really loved. Like I loved the double turn match he had with Del Rio. I liked his stuff with Ray, his cash in, Money in the Bank cash in. I felt like he had a lot of kind of jump up moments that were pretty memorable from the last decade. So that's where he landed. And then Bailey at number 73, who is probably plays into your hasn't done enough on the main roster criteria that you imposed. Yeah. So just, I mean, she had some of, I think, the best matches. Well, I mean, I think the series with Sasha Banks is some of the best matches they've had in the company this decade. So that helps a lot. And when I did my first pass, Bailey was like insanely high. And I don't think even that big of a Bailey fan, but I had her like 40 or 45 on my first pass through. So I corrected that. She's still in above the bottom quarter, which may be a smidge high, but I'm still a big Bailey fan and another person I think they really should get behind more and could do a lot more with. Right. No. Right. Way high. Yeah, I just looked at that. We'll just reveal 26 spots above me. So there you go. Yeah, Waltman, you got 28 spots ahead of me, which is, well, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird with those two just because those are really two of my guys. But yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she only made 41 ballots overall, so less than half. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the Dudleys are interesting. I think if I go through more of the 2000 stuff, they may have a chance because I really didn't like the Dudleys when I watched them in real time. And going through the late 90s, I liked them a lot more. In 2000, they're kind of weird because they have really good matches. Kind of the memorable matches I think hold up, like TLC one, the triangle match for Mania, the tables match with the Hardys. But then they disappear. It's a weird dichotomy with them where they just disappear at certain points. They get shoveled down the card. They're facing like Lowdown. They're in a feud with Lowdown, way down the card, and then they kind of build them back up. So 2001, 2002, I'll be interested to see if I like their output more. But as of now, I honestly didn't really even consider them too much. Just because I think if you put one, you got to put the other one. I mean, that's a straight kind of package deal with them. And I don't know. I didn't really like them in real time and didn't revisit enough to change my mind on that. Yeah, yeah. Bubba Ray getting huge face pops for straight man on woman violence. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's really cool in Memphis too. When they did the WWF versus USWA feud, he's great in that as well as Doink. So I love Doink, just not quite long enough for me. I know, yeah, I was going to mention that another Portland connection. That's why I had Big Boss Man so high. Right. Yeah, we'll move along. This is again the bottom five here were ones that you had higher or didn't have at all, and then the top half I had all of them higher. So 70 is Paul Orndorff, 69 Captain Lou Albano, 68 Ken Patera, 67 JBL, 66 Oscar, 65 Booker T, 64 Sid. There's where I had Sid. 63 Sasha Banks, and then 62 Jay Uso, 61 Jimmy Uso, of course. So a couple here. You did not have Lou Albano. This kind of gets into the manager thing we talked about earlier. I just think he's someone that, I mean, just by attrition, like he was so iconic for a lot of that Titans stuff that even though I did kind of feel like he was a glory hound in some degree, certainly later on, especially where he's like coming out with the head shrinkers and stuff like that, which was just bullshit. But from the late '70s to the early '80s, I think of the three wise men, he had the most legitimate heat, in my opinion, of all of them. I do have, well, I'll spoil it. I have Blassie higher just because I kind of like his managerial style, and I think he has one more jump up moment in the Pencil Neck Geek than anything Albano has. But Albano does have the Cyndi Lauper stuff, which is very popular. So that's kind of where he landed. Yeah, I just noticed Captain Lou's 69, which I think we talked about in our chat. It's just juvenile, but pretty funny. And then, as you said, you didn't have Oscar. She's just someone I've really loved the way she's been booked. I think she's someone that even in the main roster, they've done good by her so far. And I hope they don't run that. And she really, go ahead. Yeah, right. And then I guess briefly, like I have Booker T. We're really close. We're one spot away. And he right, and I'll just say I'll give my thoughts for Booker T now. He'd be lower just on the stuff I've watched in the past month. With the SummerSlam stuff, he just has some bad SummerSlam stuff. The match with Batista, I think, is dreadful. Yeah, he has a Triple H's return match is a whole bag of nothing. That John Cena match from '04 is there's not a lot there. And even going through 2000, he's somebody that I think just because WCW was so just a wasteland in 2000 that people really championed for Booker T, and he's the youth movement, and let's build him up. And while all that's good in theory, I just don't think he's that good of a worker. And I'm going to be going through the 2001 stuff pretty quickly, which is his big run with The Rock. And if that disappoints which is kind of what my expectations are now. I actually think he'd be fighting to make my list now. I've like fallen that far on him just in the past like month or two. The more I've watched, the more I've just, I mean, I still like the King Booker character, but it's just like in ring, it's just not holding up, and I've been left consistently disappointed, and think that yeah, while he is having good three and a quarter star matches with Chris Benoit, I mean Chris Benoit could be having 3.5 star matches with Chavo Guerrero or somebody like that, So I mean, how good? What? Right. What is he bringing to the table, really? So he's somebody that's really dropped. Probably my biggest like stock drop in the past month or two, or since I made the list overall. And it'll be released by the time that this podcast drops. So I mean, he finishes 50th on the overall list, which I think is way too high. Uh, his high vote's number 18, which I can't even imagine. And I mean, he's right around like here's the people that's right around him: William Regal, Chris Benoit, Vince McMahon, Booker T, Sean Waltman, Big Boss Man, Sheamus, Billy Graham. So I think in that company, he's either not as good a worker as the other great workers in that group, or not as good as a character as like your Vince McMahon and Big Boss Man and Billy Graham's in that group. So to me, he just sticks out in that grouping as a inferior version on either side of the spectrum. Yeah. We were, yeah, yeah, we were close. Right, right. No, yeah, I mean, 16 spots, that's not a terrible, huge difference. We actually had Jimmy higher, both of us. Oh, Shelton Benjamin is kind of in that Kofi Kingston bucket for me. Somebody that's, kind of been in that tag level or IC belt level that I just, he never connected with me, and he's someone that I'll probably need to rewatch. That's, again, he came, and Shelton more than even Kofi, where, Shelton's prime years, as I said, was when I was probably the least paying attention. So a lot of his stuff from '04 onward, I either haven't watched in real time since I watched it live, or I never even watched it when it happened. So he's kind of a victim of that to me. Cowboy Bob, I don't know why I didn't have him in my bottom 10. Probably should have. I think he's a great character, more iconic than. I guess he's more iconic than his push ever was, I would say. To me, I mean, Cowboy Bob's pretty generic, but he really made it work and made it stick. So yeah, he probably should have been in my bottom 10 somewhere. I could have bumped out a few people for him. Yeah, big bumper. And his matches with back. I know they have a Spectrum match that's really good. That's worth seeing. I can look at that real quick. Unfortunately for him, like honestly, the thing I remember the most is like when he had his mom. Yeah, he finished 110th. So yeah, not he probably deserved a little better than that. But yeah, Bob Orton finished 84th. That's respectable for him. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I had Santino 6 slots slower, so we're pretty close, really close on that. Yeah, I'll get on my high horse for him a little bit. Like he finished behind Arn Anderson in the overall listing. And it's like, I mean, I love Arn, but I mean, come on, and even if you go beyond that, like he finished behind Mula, George Steele, Mr. Fuji, Mike Rotunda. I mean, those are right ahead of him, and it's like I can't see much of an argument of those. Even somebody like Road Dogg. I mean, what did Road Dogg do in ring that was so much better? Yeah, I mean, what was so much better about Road Dogg's in ring than Santino? And I think charisma wise, Santino wins as well. So I think he got a little unfair shake. I think he just got pegged as a comedy worker, which, of course, that's predominantly what he did, but he did it better than probably anyone in company history over a longer period of time. So right, which is interesting. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Santino versus Batista in a shoot fight, I'd take Santino easily, easily. Yeah, and you actually had her exactly where she landed on the final listing. Yeah, and she was only on 64 ballots, which I think is low. I'm surprised by that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I have Charlotte higher, but Sasha, I think, is right up there. And again, like we talked about with Asuka, I think she's certainly positioned herself to be even higher if we do this list again, where she can kind of really be in that upper echelon if we do the list 10 years from now, if they keep giving her opportunities. I mean, I'm good moseying on. All right, I think this will actually be a pretty quick list for me because the 55 through 50 you have higher, and then there's a few that you didn't have at all. So 60 Goldberg, 59 Jerry Lawler, 58 Freddie Blassie, 57 Earthquake, 56 Sheamus, 55 Trish Stratus, 54 Ted DiBiase, 53 The Ultimate Warrior, 52 Sergeant Slaughter, 51 Jake the Snake Roberts. So you didn't have Goldberg on your list. I probably had him pretty high. I just think his jump up factor is pretty high. To me, like, I mean, this is interesting talking to a shoot style connoisseur because really shoot style matches, I think, are the only matches in contention. But his match with Brock from WrestleMania 33, I think, is probably right now my favorite sub 5 minute match of all time. I know there's the Nakana match I watched for Finding Network Friends, which is up there as well. But just a brilliant sprint totally violent. Loved it. He also, I mean, we just rewatched SummerSlam 2003, and he's easily the most over person in that chamber match. And look who he's with. I mean, he's with Shawn Michaels. He's with Chris Jericho. He's with Triple H. He's with I mean, he's with people that finish a lot higher on this list than he does. And it, right, yeah. And like you said, it's not even close. I'd say, twice as over as somebody like Shawn in that match. Definitely should have pulled the trigger on him then. And then I revisited the Rock match pretty recently and enjoyed that. So he's just a guy I've always connected with, and I thought he's brought a niche, but he's always been a star, and he's always had it, whether what that was. He's always had it with a lot of the audience. Jerry Lawler, again, probably too high. Let me see. Yeah, he finished 74th on the overall list, so I'm even higher than that. He's probably a little too high for me, but I really love the Bret Hart feud from 1993. That's kind of his strengths there. Right. Yeah, he's also. Go ahead. Sorry. Right. He's also someone that as I'm going through the late 2000s with his commentary, it's like, oh, it's just so bad. Excuse me. Yeah. So it's different. And then Freddie Blassie, I kind of touched on him. Earthquake, I had a good bit higher than you, correct? Yeah, 17 spots. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anything's really elite after that. I do enjoy some stuff like the sumo match with Yokozuna. He has a smattering of other stuff. Some of the natural disaster stuff's not awful. Um, yeah, definitely. He's someone I think definitely is kind of projected on his jump up moments, mainly with the Hulk feud. And then Trish. Trish is my second highest female, pretty close to Charlotte. I do think. I mean, it's kind of tough with her because I do think in some regard it's overblown, like how good of a worker she was. But I certainly think it's admirable seeing someone that was brought into the company as just, the next bombshell, good looking girl that was not trained, didn't really know how to take a bump. Even in early 2000, you can see that. And even throughout 2000, as I've progressed in the year, you can see her improving in ring. And, of course, she plays her character like when she's involved with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and Kurt Angle, and she's about to be heavily involved with Vince, which I don't know how that's going. I don't know how that's going to play in retrospect. Probably not well, but she also is someone that was taken seriously and took her role seriously as the manager of TNA and really went out there to become a serviceable worker, which I think is extremely admirable. And again, I think someone you could put as the patriarch of what you're seeing now, like the seeds she sowed are, being uprooted now and given us the great action we are seeing with the women in the promotion. Right. Yeah, I mean she's someone that like for me like becoming a horny teenager. Like I thought she was the best looking of the group, and now I'm like, oh well, she's a good, decent to good wrestler first, which I think is a big accomplishment considering what she was brought into the company to be. Right. Yeah, I mean, I was all in right before '03's right when I went to college in '04. So kind of his run was right when I was watching a big chunk of stuff right in '03 when he came in. And then I ventured out as Triple H became more and more prominent. So there you go. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think whether him or Kevin Owens is the, I guess, biggest person that I just don't get. I think it's definitely a competition between them two, and kind of has been throughout their career, including the Indies. Rollins is just always somebody like from IWA Mid South. I always liked somebody like Josh Abercrombie more than him. And then in Ring of Honor, I like Jimmy Jacobs better when they were both in Age of the Fall. And then in the Shield, I liked both Ambrose and Reigns better. So there's just always been something I can't never quite put my finger on it, but the connection's just been lost there with me with him. Yeah, right. Right. No. Hmm. It's a timeless character. I think. I mean, I think that could come out debut right now and it would work. I think though it needed him because he. I mean, art imitates life in regards to him, so it worked with him for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I know Finley. They talked about him on the honorable mention with Justin and Aaron, and I do think he was probably the best worker in the company in 2006. So that gives him a good bump for me to make my list. And again, I'm sorry, it's so recent, but it's on the brain. Like, I mean, he has a lot of kind of sneaky good matches. I think, like the opener with him and Kane from the 2007 SummerSlam. I mean, rewatch that match and see how smartly worked it is around Kane's ribs, and that's mostly. I mean, I'd say that's 80% fiddly, just continually working it over. Right. All right. Here we go to the top 50. This is kind of a weird 10 for me. So 50 out of Rick Rude, 49 Charlotte Flair, 48 Superstar Billy Graham, 47 Scott Hall, 46 Kevin Nash, 45 The Big Show, 44 British Bulldog, 43 Cesaro, 42 John Morrison, 41 Mr. Perfect. So I'll just say, like, John Morrison, someone you did not rank. And I did not know I was going to be the high vote on him, and until I was the high vote on him. And this was just a complete goof for me. I'd probably have him in the 80s. I don't really know how he ended up at 42. It was just kind of faulty, not double checking my list and positioning guys, and he sort of slipped through the cracks. I do really like Eminem. Um, and I thought Morrison kind of projected himself as a star, but again, like, I think 80s is probably where he belongs. Charlotte Flair is my highest ranked woman. You also didn't have her. You talked about her. She's somebody that has connected for me. I mean, I think she has the pedigree, but I think she's also went out and proved herself as a really good worker. And in some ways, I think she's been the best person in some of those matches. Like, I actually think in some of the series with Sasha, I would give the edge to Charlotte in a few of those matches. So I think she definitely held her on there. Who else do I want to talk about? So I had Big Show higher than you. Kevin Nash I had 13. How much higher did I have Big Show? Eight. Yeah, so 63. Some, yeah, decent. Um, yeah. So, well, I mean, those are two. Those are kind of the two hosses. Excuse me, and I think Big Show has a ton of good. Also, definitely a ton of bad, but much more good than bad. Comparing to somebody like Kane, I don't think his lows are as low as Kane. I think his highs are pretty substantially higher than Kane, like the stuff with Mark Henry and whatnot. So that's how he's higher up than Kane. Kevin Nash, I like. I like his Diesel stuff in retrospect. I think a lot of ways he was just given a bad hand in 1995. I mean, working with Mabel and Sid, not many people are going to be able to make that a rosy situation. So it's tough. And here's I actually like the punch too. I know that's a big uh, okay. So you join your Voices of Wrestling brethren in holding that banner. But yeah, I do like the punch as a finisher. I mean I don't know. I never kind of. When have you watched the Floyd Mayweather match recently? Yeah, okay. See, I love that match too. I think that's a really strong jump up moment for show. But yeah, I mean, he okay, great. I mean, he showed again, like you said, he certainly has a lot of bad, but I definitely think there's a lot of good too. Yeah. I think that's about it on this list. You had the others higher, right? So yeah. Yeah, he's tough. He's tough for me because I mean they did put it really behind him, but now I mean Justin and Scott are going through the 95 Raws, bless them, on the website, and Justin swears like I mean I think they're into May, and he says that Diesel has not fell off yet at all. So he's interested. Oh no, they're into August. Excuse me. And I know he's still like even in the build to SummerSlam. There he's still been sort of champion that. Diesel's still kind of hanging around. Like the second Sid match is a little much at In Your House 2, but he's still getting a semi decent reaction, more than he remembered. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, Rolling Thunder. Right. Don't like him at all. I really don't. I guess Rob Van Dam's probably, I guess, where I'm the most, I guess, smarkiest still, in that as I've rewatched the footage, there's just something about him that drives me nuts. Like, especially in 2000, as I've watched, which is non WWE, but he's been driving me batty watching that year as a whole, and the stuff I did watch in WWF and WWE, I just didn't like. Maybe in late '01 when they could have pulled the trigger on him. I do remember kind of liking that run and thinking, oh, he could be a guy like outside of the evasion angle, but overall, as someone I just kind of found spotty and inconsistent, so didn't really consider him. Sheik is interesting because I seem to, in general, I try to weigh the positives more than the negatives. I mean, obviously, if I'm ranking people like Nash and Big Show in my upper half, but Sheik is someone, for some reason, I rank his later like negatives stronger, and I don't really know why, because he does have the great match with Backlund as Hussein Arab, and then like you said, I would say that is the best match of the '80s, him versus Slaughter Boot Camp. In WWF, that's my favorite match of the '80s. I think that's the only WWF match in the '80s I'd rank 5 stars. So yeah, I don't really know why I didn't find a spot for him just on the lower end of my list, but I just seem to remember him being very fat and out of shape, kind of the Nikolai Volkov and whatever Colonel Mustafa run for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I like him. And I just thought he was a little too brief to be too high, but I love the Backlund match, and yeah, I really like the tag with Murdoch. And even when he was way out of shape, both in WWF and AWA, he still could bump. He still had charisma to kind of overachieve based on his physical limitations. Let me look where he finished overall real quick. I thought it was pretty low. No, he finished 71. He did very good. Oh, yeah. I thought he did worse than that, but no, my mistake. Somebody voted him seventh. I don't know about that, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I actually thought I was going to be pretty high on him, but I guess not high enough. But I echo what you said. I mean, I think him versus Brett from '94 Raw. That may be the best Raw match of the '90s. It's in contention for sure. And even like his stuff like the Crybaby match with Ramon, like it's campy, but it's good campy fun. So Waltman's a really good performer. And then, well, I guess we can talk about Superstar Billy. I mean, I think most people know his case. It's just he's got amazing charisma, and we both rank that pretty highly. We both had him in our top 50. So, oh yeah, right, yeah. You just I know, like I really struggled with him because yeah, I mean, really bad worker, but so important too. So I don't know, but yeah, sure. All right. So now we're kind of getting into the nitty gritty. Like I said, I would actually say John Morrison is the cutoff. From that point forward, I was actually paying attention pretty good to my list. So that's where I fell asleep at the wheel with the biggest gaffe I made. But 40, I had Randy Orton. 39, Ric Flair. 38, Pat Patterson. 37, Big Boss Man. 36, Mark Henry. 35, Goldust. 34, Matt Hardy. 33, Rick Martel. 32, Christian. 31, Triple H. So this, I had a lot actually higher than you in this bucket. So Orton, where did you end up with him? He was, oh, no, we're pretty close on Orton. He's weird. He's very weird because I mean, I don't think he is bad. Well, I take that back. The Bray Wyatt feud's bad. That's bad. Um, but overall, I don't know if he's as bad as like the lows of Big Show, the lows of even the Undertaker, the lows of Kane, like those type of main eventers. But he just has these years where you're just like, I don't, like 2010 Randy Orton. I don't know. 2012. No, I mean it's just like I mean and the stuff I've watched for the SummerSlam stuff, he's been great in a lot of that. So it's like, oh, this guy's awesome. Or you watch something like him versus Foley at Backlash '04, and you're like, all right. But then there's just so much like him being an asshole on screen as well as off screen, and again, it just feels like there's all these voids where, yeah, he can have a sneaky, really good match. CM Punk at WrestleMania 27. That was a match I was there live for. Really good match. Hardly ever gets talked about, but 3 3/4, really good match. But he also has some main events that are like 2.5 stars, and you're like, what happened? Like I watched him and Cena shit the bed at Royal Rumble 2014. So he's a very weird character overall. So I put him at 40. He's somebody I think if we did this list 10 years ago, now he's somebody the opposite way Where, if we did this list in 2007, you might say, oh, if we do this list in 10 years, Randy Orton's probably going to be like top 15, top 20. And it's just like he never really got there. He's like the Dale Earnhardt Jr. of the WWE, which I know is a reference that probably not a lot of our listeners get, but if you do, you do. Ric Flair, I had him higher than you too, just by a little bit as well. He's an interesting case. I mean, 90 his early run's great, and then I like his later stuff, I think, more than most. Flair's like one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, so I don't think I have to sell anybody on Ric Flair. But I do think that 91 to 93, January 93 run is a really strong 13-month stretch of him in the company, 13, 14-month stretch. Right. Yeah. 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 Well, I know he was in 2006 at WrestleMania 22. So, yeah, for sure. One. Yeah. I mean, I just watched his match with Foley from SummerSlam '06. I mean, he's taking thumbtack shots. He's still blading like crazy. I mean, whether or not he should be is another story, but he's doing it. It's Flair, so there you go. Big Boss Man. He's somebody I had way higher than you. Correct. I think he's kind of one of those guys, kind of like you with Waltman. I think naturally you find a couple of these guys you want to champion, and Boss Man's kind of like one of those guys for me. Of the upper mid card, I found him to be the most consistent kind of throughout the promotion, even a more consistent in ring worker in WWF than somebody like Jake Roberts or Mr. Perfect, to be quite frank. And I like the character. I thought he worked well as a heel and face, which is pretty interesting. I don't think you have that many people in WWF that work pretty evenly as a heel and a face, and I think he was pretty even whether he was a heel or a face in both roles. And just somebody like, again, my wheelhouse being 88 to 94, that's his prime years. So he always kind of sung with me, so that's why I had him as high as I did. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. If you haven't watched his '93 All Japan stuff, okay, yeah, I was gonna say those matches are probably pretty good candidates for third segment Fighting Network Friends material. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A few of those, kind of house battles, but a little bit of the hard hitting shoot style, hard hitting. Then let's see, we got Hardy, Martel, Christian. I kind of lumped together. I had all of them higher than you, but not by a ton. In each case, and I mean those are guys that excelled as singles when given the chance, and also worked as tags. I think all three of them are very versatile. Again, I think all three of them are very good working heel or face, which helps. I kind of put them a lot together. This was kind of where I would say this is kind of where I peaked at the very good workers. Like all three of them, I thought were very, very good workers in WWF, maybe not consistently great. So them, and then my next 10, I think you see a little bit of a step up in what I think are great workers within the promotion that may have not necessarily been main eventers consistently. And then we'll top it off with Triple H, which where did you have him? Okay, so I had him a decent bit higher than you. Oh, a tough 52. Okay. Uh, Tough debate with him. I mean, I don't know. There's so much you can do. I know. Political maneuvering. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with him, it's like I'm going through his 2000 stuff, so I'm kind of on a high with him because I don't think that year's overrated. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. There's just a lot of good and a lot of bad with him. It's kind of tough to project. I don't feel as strongly with him again as both people on the other arguments, so sort of neutral there. Right. I'm sorry. Can we take a bit of a break? Yeah, that was work that called. So yeah, I'll call it. Oh well, if we're in the field, it's like work doesn't stop. Like I'm in Gainesville right now. I'm in at AJ Styles' house, but no, but yeah. So it's like I don't know. So who knows what was going on? But yeah, should only be like 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry.